power supply was relatively stable. But come February 14, 2016, sophisticated vandals hit the Forcados export terminal, which supplies over 40% of gas going to our power plants. And we lost in total about 1,500 megawatts of power in generation. Now, how do you solve the problem? First, aside from fixing the Forcados plant, which will take up until May, amidst threats of vandalization, we need to expand the sources and volumes of our gas assets. Gas is available, but pipelines are not. So we must build new pipelines to take gas from gas plants to the power plants. And that's what we're doing at the moment. There are several gas pipeline projects all over the country awarded at various times. Very few were ever completed. And a lot of money, of course, has gone into the contracts for these gas pipelines. But you cannot have gas without piping them to the power plants. So a lot of that has to be done today. A lot of what we are going to be spending on power is completing projects that have been abandoned or projects that have just been discontinued for one reason or the other. Transmission is another problem. In the short to medium term, we are working to complete many of the abandoned transmission assets. We are also working on the distribution companies to meter their customers. Customers must also pay, otherwise the generating and distribution companies will collapse. Telecommunications companies in Nigeria have survived and expanded because everyone is forced to pay their bills. And the only way by which the power sector will survive and thrive is if we all pay our bills. But it's a chicken and egg situation. People say, I don't have power, so why should I pay? And of course, the distribution and the generation and distribution companies say, if you don't pay, how can we produce power? But I think that the simple solution is that a more efficient system, which is what we are working on, will certainly encourage payment. But pay we must. We've dropped fixed charges today. There are no more fixed charges. In other words, you do not pay necessarily because you own a facility. You don't have to pay any fixed charges anymore, and it's only the tariffs that are to be paid. But of course, there are still arguments around that. How about fuel? Almost all the petrol we use is imported, and I think Sheun just pointed that out. So with scarcity of foreign exchange, it has become difficult for independent marketers to import fuel. The NNPC has had to import and distribute almost all the fuel that the country uses. So what is the solution? We must get the independent marketers to source their foreign exchange so that they can bring in fuel to complement NNPC imports. But the medium to long-term plan is the new initiative to get the private sector to build what are described as co-located refineries and new refineries, so that by the end of 2018, we'll be producing most of our petrol locally. Now, this is a problem that we need not experience. And the reason is, just as has been pointed out, there's no reason why a country with the amount of crude that we have to be importing refined petroleum products. But that's where we find ourselves today. And so once there's a scarcity of foreign exchange, you're going to have problems in importing. So what we do and what has been done is to swap, to send your crude abroad and get it back in the form of refined petroleum. That the government does about 50% of imports. But in the past few months, the government itself has been almost importing the entire 100% of refined petroleum imports because of the scarcity of foreign exchange. NNPC really lacks the capacity to distribute petrol across the country. So the independent marketers are key. They must be involved in the distribution of petroleum products. But we'll get there, and we'll get there quickly enough once we're able to change the paradigms. I know that many people today just ask the question, how can we have so much and yet so little? But these are the answers that we'll be providing, and I'm sure that very, very soon we'll see a vast improvement. How about the ease of doing business in Nigeria? I think it was my sister Ibukun Awoshika who said that you have to know someone in order to get any kind of approval. Nigeria, somehow, we have rigged a system where it is so difficult to get anything done, especially through the public services. The mandate of our Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment is to ensure that there is a noticeable difference in the ease of doing business. And that is to say that pre-investment approvals, especially those coming from the federal government, must be easy to access. They must be easy to obtain. And he has a mandate to work over the next 18 months to ensure that we move 30 spaces in the Ease of Doing Business Index, which is an index which is compiled by by the World Bank. How will we create jobs? We will deepen the diversification of the economy. The big areas of focus are agriculture, the agro-allied value chain, solid minerals, petrochemicals, technology and entertainment. And I'll talk a bit about technology and entertainment as we go on. But I want to say, just because for those of us who live in the urban areas, agriculture really doesn't mean much. But it's very important for us to bear in mind that today, agriculture is the second largest employer of labor in Nigeria, and it can expand. We need to be completely self-sufficient in rice production, in wheat, in tomato, and several of these products that today drain our foreign exchange. Just to take an example of rice, the demand for rice is about 7 million metric tons. We produce only 2.7 locally, so we import the difference. So we spend almost $4 billion to $5 billion US every year on rice. So how did we approach that? And how are we approaching it? We've picked 10, 11, probably 11 states that will produce rice. Just take an example of Kebbi State, for example. Kebbi State is a state that has always traditionally produced rice. But in the past 1 year, we started a scheme of empowering the farmers with money and inputs to double their production. In this year, in the past 4 months, Kebbi State had an investment of 7.5 billion, which was given directly to farmers for inputs and for other services. And now they're producing almost 1 million metric tons of rice. For a country that needs 7 million metric tons of rice, if one state is able to produce 1 million metric tons of rice, that is completely dramatic. The value of their rice is about 63 billion naira from an investment of 7.5 billion naira. It is possible this country can feed itself. This country can produce enough. All that we need to do is focus on those who are producing. Focus on those who need to do it. Remove the obstacles in the way of giving people who are producing money or resources that they need directly. That's one of the big challenges. But we'll talk a bit more about technology. We believe that technology as well as entertainment can lead the grand expansion of the economy that is needed to provide opportunities for so many young and talented Nigerians. The key to change and our future prosperity lies in innovation. Innovation is critical to our economic prosperity. Every generation thinks it is special. So my children think I'm a dinosaur when I try to figure my way around applications and devices. But history has grander ideas. From town criers to smartphones, from beasts of burden to driverless cars. There is and there will always be new technology reinventing the way we work, reimagining the standard of living we expect, and reshaping the future to come. If you can order food, taxis, or your clothes through an app and monitor the status of these items through to delivery, or complete all your banking through a smartphone, it's not unreasonable to expect also that government will make its services and its support to its citizens as seamless. Already not too long ago, a Nigerian pharmacist from the Department of Pharmaceutical and Medicinal Chemistry, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Justus Nwoga. Successful